This bill protects the country. It is a bill that will be signed by the President of the United States, so we're making a law here. We need to focus on completing action on this legislation and get it to the President before the Protect America Act expires.
In disgusting fashion, the Senate last week voted to hand major telecom companies complete retroactive immunity for helping the Bush administration illegally spy on U.S. citizens. In the 21st century, it's always and still 1984. Welcome to Collateral.
This bill goes farther than any legislation in history in protecting the privacy interests of U.S. persons, that's mostly Americans, whose communications may be acquired incidentally through this foreign targeting.
In December 2005, the New York Times reported that following 9/11, President Bush authorized the National Security Agency to secretly spy on U.S. citizens and others without court-approved warrants. Shamefully, the Times had known about the story for more than a year at this time, but sat on it due to pressure from government officials. For several months after the revelation, Bush refused to identify or discuss the role of the telecom companies in assisting the NSA. But then in the summer of 2007, the role of AT&T and other telecom companies was revealed. This, in turn, set off a string of lawsuits like the one from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. In all, there are more than 40 lawsuits to this day. But now those lawsuits have virtually no chance of going forward, thanks to one of this Congress's most cowardly acts. Last week's Senate resolution, which passed by a wide margin, stops forever any effort to investigate the role of the telecoms in this fiasco, and it also paves the way for continued warrantless spying in the U.S. The bill awaits passage in the House of Representatives. You see, the NSA officials who took part in this program enjoy a great deal of immunity from its classified nature. And so the best chance the public has of finding out the true extent of the program is to sue the telecom companies and get legal disclosure. But if that were to happen, of course, all sorts of other things, other illegal things potentially, could come out as well, the kinds of things that end careers and make for further scandal. Thus, the Senate, including almost 24 crossover Democrats, killed any current or future legal inquiry into these events. In so doing, they also defended the telecoms against the financial costs that would invariably come from expensive lawsuits. And of course, the telecom companies are major contributors to many of the senators' campaigns. To understand the gravity of this Senate action, consider that the reporters who broke the story won Pulitzer Prizes. The Democrats at the time promised to dig deep to get to the bottom of this, but instead they did worse than nothing. I say worse because this bill doesn't just give immunity to a gang of criminals for past behavior. It also basically legalizes warrantless wiretapping going forward. It would have been better if the Senate did nothing.
But trust me, says the President, he means it literally. When he first asked Congress to make the telecoms actions legally disappear, Congress had a reasonable question for him. Can we at least know exactly what we'd be immunizing? Can you at least tell us what we'd be cleaning up when you ask us to do that? And the President refused to answer. Only he, his close advisors, and a handful of telecom executives know all of the facts.
For the record, Senator John McCain voted in favor of immunity. Both Senators Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton did not vote on the final measure, although Obama opposed immunity in an earlier version of the bill. Senator Clinton, who wasn't in Washington, said had she been, she would have voted to oppose immunity. If there were a true opposition party in Washington, this story might have come out quite differently. But as it stands, the middle name of most Senate Democrats is lickspittle. Two prominent exceptions to that in this case were Christopher Dodd and Russ Feingold, both of whom spoke eloquently against the measure. And as for the telecom companies, they're not saying much, because they don't have to. Hope to see you next time. And hello in advance to any government officials listening in the phone calls this week.
So, Mr. President, I rise in determined opposition to this unprecedented immunity and all that it represents. I've served in this body for more than a quarter of a century now. I've spoken from this desk hundreds and hundreds of times. I've rarely come to the floor with this much anger. But since I came to Washington, I've seen 6 presidents sit in the White House. And I've never seen a contempt of the rule of law equal to this.